Welcome back. We haven't done a show for well over a month, and it's great to be back. Thank you for watching. This is Activate Worcester. And here we are into April, and we don't know whether to wear shorts or ski jackets. I mean, this is about the way it's been. Crazy. So I came to the show tonight. I didn't know what the heck to wear, so I was fortunate enough to find a ski jacket that I hadn't worn for a while, and it's kept me from freezing to death. But that being said, thank you for giving us a look-see. We appreciate it. Our guest has become an absolute regular on the show is Jay Givan, and Jay is our Mr. Politics, but he's more than that. He's more of a general observer of what's going on in the human condition these days, and he'll be sharing some of his thoughts with you as well. So, welcome. Glad to have you back. And here we are in the month of April. We're heading into spring. And I thought it might be kind of interesting to talk a little bit about what's been going on over the last several months. And from a political perspective, we've had things like Harriet Chandler. She's finally retiring. And as somebody said the other day, she's kind of like the Worcester version of Dianne Feinstein. So actually, I think Harriet still has more on the ball than Dianne does, but she's been serving the area for quite a while. And then you have a major shakeup in the makeup of the city council. You're going to be having two major changes where they're not going to be participating any longer. One is Sean Rose, and the other is Sarai Rivera. And I think to some extent it's burnouts in both cases. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in those races. So this year will be very, very important for the city itself. Mayor Petty is going to be running yet again and doing the bidding of the McGovern, as they say, the McGovern crime family. Nice guy, but who knows. We have a new governor in place, Maura Healey, who's basically behaving exactly the way we thought she would.
She is.
And that's not a good thing, but it is what it is. And on balance, what's really happened is that the city council is moving harder and harder to the left. And that's the great fear of what's going to happen in the short and near term if we become totally woke about the way we're doing things in this city. And I know there's lots of big construction projects, and the Denholm building is going to be coming down, and they're going to be putting twin towers, and there's going to be 100 new places to live there, and so on and so forth. It seems that that's the only thing we're really building in this city, is apartments.
There's 100 places you can start from what you just said. So a city or any place, anywhere, you need people to live there to supply the business's workforce. Mm-hmm. And just the opposite is true. You can't have all business, because who would work there if there isn't anybody living there? Mm-hmm. However, I guess you're referring to inclusionary zoning, or IZ for short. Mm-hmm. If you look at the particulars of IZ or 40B or 40R or whatever the flavor of the housing agenda is, there's still a bottom line that the housing court, Attell, Twee, Christian King, the usual suspects. When you have a 20+% poverty rate in the city, the first thing you ought to be doing is thinking about how do you lift up that 20%, not importing more low income and more poverty. Now, if you're low income, this isn't about the people. You can have some very exceedingly nice and wonderful people at low income. You can have some really rotten people who are totally loaded and have millions. But we'll get to presidential politics later on. And this isn't about left and right. And this isn't about rational and deranged, which is certainly a case for that. This is more, I think it was in the 1964 time of choosing speech by Reagan. This is more up and down. And it's a math problem, math equation. So to kind of take a step back, about a month ago, there's this Facebook page called Worcester Political Dialogue. Leans left, but I had asked a question for those of you on the left, and anybody can answer. Do you want this city to be wealthy? And if so, what policies do you support to make the city wealthy? And all of the people on the left they disappeared. I guess the internet was broken last month. But I did get a few responses. Some people, I won't say who they are because they're not public people. Yenny DeRoche, I'll mention her because she did run for city council 2 years ago. And a lot of people asked me, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? What do you think about this? And I said, I won't answer. I want you to answer the way you want to answer, because once I say something, then it becomes a debate. I want you to think through, and how would you do
What
that?
you're doing is posing the question, throwing it out there.
Right.
And the audience is supposed to respond to it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, if I were running, that would be my campaign issue. How do you make Worcester a wealthier city? I don't mean City Hall wealthy. I mean resident wealthy. And Ted Costas, you had mentioned the new candidates. I know Jenny Pasillo is running in District 1 to replace Sean Rose. There's somebody else. I don't know who that other person is. But I think Jenny Pasillo is potentially, vote-wise, not personality or anything, more in line with Sean Rose. So you may not get much of a change in District 1. However, Ted Costas running in District 4 with about 100 other people. It's like the 2016 Republican race. He could have really shake up City Hall quite a bit. He is a registered Republican. That shouldn't be held against him, though it is in a lot of woke blue cities.
Oh, without a doubt, sure.
But, so you have this map right here. See that like Rush did. There's dark blue, medium blue, light blue, and that basically shows the income levels of certain neighborhoods of the city. And as you would expect, Salisbury Street has the most money. District 4, South Main Street, doesn't have any money. Now, if you were to increase people's salaries by $15,000, if you're up in Salisbury Street, Tatnick Square, even Burncoat, or $15,000 is not something to sneeze at, but it's not going to affect your life as much as bringing people in South Main Street,
Up 50.
going from like $25,000 to $40,000 a year.
Sure.
But the question is, how do you do it? If you bring in, coming back to IZ zoning again, or whatever the subsidized housing program is, and that's another thing. The left uses the word affordable as a euphemism for subsidized. And the Republicans and the WRCC in particular, they need to do a much better job at explaining what this stuff is. Not the particulars of it, but the bottom line of it. And the bottom line is, when you bring this stuff in, you're creating more poverty, more low income. And there's only so many jobs at McDonald's or 7-Eleven that go around. Now, having said that, if you're working the fry machine at McDonald's, you have a far more important job than some bureaucrat in the school department, the assistant of the substitute secretary of that assistant. It's ridiculous. You've got this spending's out of control in the city.
You have a payroll where they say that the average employee for the city the number is $60,000 apiece. And that does not include
Benefits.
perks. So maybe that's another 30%. So you wonder where your tax dollars are going and where they're not going. Now, going along with what you said, again, there was an article in the paper yesterday that basically said the city of Worcester, and I forget what the time frame is, I apologize, will have over 1,000 new housing units in a very short period of time. Now, the Denholm building, which as we know has been, kind of repurposed and so on and so forth, and it's a dinosaur, it's long gone, and basically they're going to be hitting it with the old wrecking ball, putting a twin tower in there, and it's going to be a combination, as always, as quote affordable market rate housing, right downtown on Main Street in Worcester, and there'll be some retail activity. Okay, that's fine. You guys all know the meat market, Fairway Beef, which is now gone, and before you know it, they're going to be putting something like either a 6 or a 7-story high-rise there. Okay, most of you guys know.
Good luck sleeping on the 4th floor, even with 290.
Yeah. I've worked for about 4 years part-time for Better Electric over on 190 Street and whatnot, and it's been there since 1948. And the owner he's had it, and he's going to close up the shop. And once that happens, that's about a 2-acre parcel there. It's walking distance to 290. That'll be raised. And after all is said and done, it may take 5 years, who knows. I'm sure that's going to be another vertical thing and, more market rate housing and so on and so forth. But the thing that seems to be missing, there's a lot of things going on in Worcester. Basically, it's places to live, which we'll get to in a second. A lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, which is fine. And, you obviously know what's happening down in the Canal District. But I live in Greendale, and I'm up and down West Boylston Street all the time, and I really don't see anything new going in there. And nothing has gone on for years. If you go all the way down to where the old Blockbuster is, oh boy, they finally made a change after it being closed. It had to be 5 years, maybe more. And now they have another, healthcare thing going in. So between healthcare, bar rooms, and narcotic distribution places, but the thing of it is, guys, it's nice to have places for people to live, but the people that are going to be living in these apartments, which by the time that they're all said and done, you're going to be paying $2,000 a month for a studio. And this is the way it's going to be. And they'll go higher and higher and higher. And the people that are going to be living there are not people that are Worcester-centric people. They're going to be coming from Framingham East because it's such a deal to come out here. So is Worcester going to become a bedroom community for the upper middle or lower upper class, if you want to call it that? And how about manufacturing? How about businesses? What's happening to draw businesses into the area? When you're bringing all these new folks in, and not just the ones we talk about at $2,000 a month for a studio, you're going to be bringing a lot of folks in from different parts of the world who really don't have language skills, don't have computer skills. And in the olden days, there'd be factories that would take folks like that, get them started, and they'd be involved, they would live in the area, they would identify with things, and this would be their city. That's not happening.
Well, it used to be Horace Greeley, head west. Head west, young man.
man.
But now it's go a little beyond Metro West. and Worcester, but if the Boston market is $3 or $4 grand maybe a month, they're going to look at Worcester at $2,000 a month. We're headed to Worcester. Now, if you're a Worcester landlord, then these guys are paying $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Well, you know what, their rent's going to go up.
Sure.
And when the subsidized housing is a percentage of that, that's going to go up just as much. And this is the big fallacy of government programs. this comes back to Atal Hajii. She truly is a stupid person. And if she's not stupid, then she's a very evil person. Because what she's doing is creating a city that's not primarily in the middle income-wise. She wants the poor, and she wants the poor coming in so she can bolster her political support. She's a control freak, and most of the left is anyway. Now, psychologically, the left, they're made up of a bunch of incompatible political identity groups anyway. But they do share some psychological problems. They're miserable, unhappy, angry, and nasty. And they can't stand the thought that somebody somewhere might be happy about something. And they just come in and they force this cultural rot down our throats, like the Bud Light boy, which is ridiculous. Let's not go there quite yet.
That's a subject for a little later on in the show.
So they want to bring in, they want to destroy the middle class. And we all know that. This goes back to the FDR and as programs during the Depression, the LBJ, Great Society. It's all of this stuff. But now we have those big government ideas being pushed into like limits unknown by the radical woke left. But when you start creating that ultra high incomes mixed in with more poverty, they're just going to hollow out the middle class. And if you're a business who's paying twice the tax rate residential people are, I don't need this. I'll just go to,
wherever.
New Hampshire's the only, I mean, they're not going to go to Connecticut. And the Rhode Island is on the decline. Why would anybody move to New York and start a business? Vermont, there's nothing up there. And so you're going to leave New England. And even if they did just go out of state, or just
and a lot of folks
even if they went to Millbury, it still hurts Worcester.
And the thing of it is too, you sell out to bigness. Now, for example, you have the big Amazon facility, okay, where we used to have the shopping center. So the shopping center is gone, and all the jobs with it are gone, and all the cultural benefits, if you want to call it that. And now you've got this humongous, and I don't know how many square feet that warehouse is, but it's
like Yankee Stadium.
It's ridiculous. It's all completed, and I go past it every day on 290 where 190 intersects, and the lights are on because they have to do it around the perimeter of it, and it's all been completed except guess what? It's not operating.
Build it, and they should have come.
Build it, and they should have come. Yeah, that's right. But they haven't come because Amazon overstated the need for all this activity. So once again, you've got what should be a prime retail space sitting there like a gigantic elephant. It's kind of like in China where they built those cities, or in Russia as well. And they built the cities, but nobody came. And that's literally what seems to be happening here. Yeah, we have Polar Park, and it's great business and so on and so forth. But even the businesses that were supposed to be flourishing because of Polar Park aren't flourishing, because when there's a ball game, they tie up, the parking places and whatnot, and they come to Polar Park, they eat there, they have a great time, and then they split. And when they did Medical City downtown, same thing. Oh, that's going to be the salvation of Worcester. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, when you come for your chemo, right after, of course you're looking for a nice Mexican restaurant.
Oh yeah, or a $5 handbag at the fashion outlet.
That's right. So all of these things are like little fringy things, and the thing that made Worcester, and you guys who have been in the city for generations know this, was a great solid manufacturing base. And it was not just manufacturing, it was innovative. There were a lot of great things about this, and that's why Worcester became what it is. And little by little by little, the innovations have gone. The basic jobs in the Norton companies, the Saint-Gobains, whatever, et cetera, the Healds, those places are just not making it happen anymore.
They're over in China now, or South
And nobody's
Carolina.
coming to resurrect those.
Who would want to? I mean, I think the commercial rate is maybe the 8th highest in the state.
In the state. It's unbelievable, yeah.
I mean, but this isn't like Kansas or Alabama, but this is Massachusetts, and it's the 8th highest in the state.
Which is unreal. Now, the thing of it is, you guys have heard the term TIF, not as in a TIFF, like he and I having a tiff. It's, which would be trouble for me, but TIF is a tax incentive fund. And this is something that the government can provide as an incentive for companies to locate here. You know, you'll pay either a reduced rate of tax for a couple of years, or whatever the deal is. Whatever you need to do to make that happen, you need that to kickstart a business, to encourage people to come.
Well, it's like seed money.
Yeah, yes, it is.
But it gets to the point, if you do it too often, it becomes bribe money. It's like,
Yeah.
we're not attractive enough as a city, so we're going to basically bribe you to come here.
Which is what they've done in the South for generations. God, who would want to go to the South? You know, well, how many companies relocated to the South from the North because the taxes were just too insane here? So they took a shot, and they found that, hey, the people down there weren't really as primitive as they thought they were. And with taxes being minimal, if at all, housing values through the roof, you know, who's the fool? But what do? All we're doing is everything we can to make it tougher to exist with a company, and you know, small companies, and I think it's defined as 50 or less employees, okay? Mm-hmm. Really, well, like 50% or more of your economy. And if you starve them out, you're going to have nothing happening at the lower level. You're not going to have all the innovative things happening that made this.
It's like what Michael Savage said, 10 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
Trickle up poverty.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where we're at right now. You mentioned before about your friend Hajiai, okay? All she's really doing is implementing the Democratic plan. And the Democratic plan, as it related to what we know has happened with the borderless border that we now seem to have in this country, everybody is welcome to come in, especially if they come from quote-unquote downtrodden areas. They come in here, you know, we're giving them all sorts of incentives. They're not just coming here to work like dogs. They're coming here and they're given, you guys know the stories better than I do. I don't waste your time yakking about it. And who do you think is their benevolent dictator? The Democratic Party. And quote-unquote, if the Republicans get in, oh my God, they're not going to get those subsidies anymore. So in English, what they've done, they've sold out the country for votes. They've sold out the country to bring folks in to ensure that there will only, this is the game plan, you guys know this, to have one political party, one way of thinking. And that's not what this country was based on. It was based on a lot of people coming from all different disparate areas, religious reasons and other, to come here and breathe the fresh air and to do something that hadn't been done before. And I think it was Ben Franklin that said, okay, we've given you a republic. We're not a democracy, guys. We're a republic. And it's going to be up to you to handle it. And unfortunately, the pattern has been that political regimes like this tend to last between 200 and 300 years before they start imploding for various reasons. And those various reasons are on display every day.
Well, the Biden administration just this week cannot define what a female is, cannot define what a border is, and they can't define what an assault rifle is.
It's an AR. It's an automatic. And this is a guy that's the in charge of the tobacco and firearms, right?
Yes.
That's who it was, and he didn't know. Nice. It's like getting somebody who's a Surgeon General that doesn't know what an aspirin is for. And this is what you're dealing with. It's just stupefying. We're going to have a second segment that we'll be into, but one thing I just wanted to address real quickly. Right now, the hot topic is the Bud Light issue with our little friend prancing around as they try desperately to reposition an incredibly successful brand. Now, you guys are old enough to remember they tried to do the same thing with Coke when they came out with something called New Coke, as if the old Coke wasn't good. Okay, well,
Not Hunter Biden Coke. You mean Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, yeah, thank you for the clarification. And you saw what happened. Coke really took it in the neck. A lot of years ago, in the greater New York area, there was a brand of beer called Ballantine. And it was a brand that goes back to 1840. And they were really famous for their Ballantine Ale. At any rate, what they had, they had 3-Ring Pete, and there were little cartoons and all that. But it was Yankee beer. So if you were a Yankee fan, you drank Ballantine and so forth. Well, the geniuses that ran the brand said, we need to, at one point they were the third largest manufacturer of beer, okay? Then they decided, no, we need to expand our market, so we're going to start going for the women. Like women, remember, this is the 50s, okay? Different world than it is today. So rather than having rough-hewn ads, now they showed a couple, like in a New York penthouse, and she's got an evening gown, he's got a tuxedo, and what are they pouring? Ballantine. Well, what happened is the Ballantine drinkers said, guess what? They don't want me anymore, so I won't drink Ballantine anymore. And the women said, ew, I'm not going to drink stuff like that. And Ballantine ended up going into receivership. Falstaff bought them, and God knows who owns them now. But this is what you can do with a brand when you get pig-headed and silly about it, and all you care about is just selling it out, selling out your past for a very, very spurious future. But anyway, Ballantine beer, look it up if you think you're kidding. What I'm not kidding about is the music, as usual, and we're going to have to put a capper on this edition of Activate Worcester. I hope you enjoyed our little repartee back and forth. We have more things to discuss. Jay and I will be chatting about it. Please watch us next week for part 2. And thank you for watching, as we always say, and we mean it.